Hello, thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I'll talk about how to start a towing company the right way. Now, if you're already in the toy business, you'll still want to stick around because I also include details on growing your business. Okay, so here goes. One of the reasons I wrote the book, How to Start a Towing Company, was because I made a lot of mistakes when I first started out. I made tons of mistakes. I won't go into it in the detail in this video, but there's a lot of work involved. And I wanted to help others avoid these same type of mistakes. I want you to do it the right way. In the beginning, I was more of what you call a technician, like from the book, The EMyth. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I was not like an entrepreneur at that time. I was just a guy who did the business. But over time, I learned from my mistakes, and then I made a decent amount of money doing it. Okay. Anyway, I mentioned my book because I get a lot of emails from people in the industry and even outside the industry who have questions. And the answers to those questions are in the book. But here's a question I got the other day. I was just on your website. What are the general requirements when starting a towing company? We want to get started right away. Well, that's big. I mean, you can't really just give that into an email, but I did make an attempt to do it. So my reply was, depending on the type of towing business you start and the location, the requirements will vary. But what I have here for you should be a good place to start. So the first thing you want to get to understand is licensing and regulations. What are the necessary licenses and regulations that you need to comply with when starting your towing business? Now, these are going to be dependent on the type of business you want to start and where it's located, obviously. Consensual towing versus non-consensual towing, or a combination of both. So if you're doing parking enforcement, impound towing, or working with law enforcement and heavy-duty towing, all of those things are going to require different things than just if you're doing light-duty towing. These are questions that must be answered before you can know what type of licenses you'll need to acquire, as well as what regulations you'll need to abide by. The next thing is equipment and the investment required to get into this business. Now, you don't know until you know what kind of business you get into, right? You're going to get into. Is it going to be non-consensual or consensual? Once you have the licensing and regulations determined, you can get a better understanding of what type of tow trucks and equipment you'll need and what the estimated initial investment will be. For example, if you're running a consensual towing business out of your home, your investment may be as small as, say, $40,000 for a used flatbed tow truck. Good luck, maybe not now, but you should be able to get something along those lines. However, if you're operating a non-consensual towing business, you'll need to secure a lot and possibly a 24-hour facility, depending on the regulations in your area. So you'll need to lease or buy property and have additional staff. And of course, you're going to need insurance. Okay, so the next thing after you understood those requirements, then what are the insurance requirements for the people that you work with, right? The city, the insurance companies, or whatever you work for. The types of insurance you need will be dependent on the type of business you start. While you'll need comprehensive collision, liability, on-hook, and cargo insurance for both consensual and non-consensual towing, you'll also need garage keepers insurance for vehicles that are kept on your property, okay? And you also want to get workers' compensation insurance for your employees. Of course, there are other types of insurance that can be helpful, such as loss of income insurance, but it's not required, but it may be helpful down the road if you get injured or somebody else gets injured. Then you'll want to do a comprehensive analysis of the market that you're going to be entering. Okay, so it's what's called a market analysis. Now, you can do this in a couple of different ways, but the first thing you want to understand is you want to ensure that the location where you start your business has sufficient demand. I always suggest that you seek out an area with at least 40,000 population within a 10-mile area, okay? Like a circle or whatever the city is, at least that big. If you're in a rural area, even if you're close to an interstate, you better understand that the number of people who need towing and roadside assistance is going to be substantially less than if you're in a major city. Also, if you live in a depressed area, there may not be sufficient demand for your services. So before you pull the trigger and start your business, ensure that the folks in your area you choose have the means to afford your services. The last thing I'll say on market analysis for now is don't be discouraged if you see other towing companies operating in the area. This is a good thing, right? While you might assume that the area has too many competitors for you to start, seeing other towing companies is a good sign that there's sufficient demand for your services. Besides, your goal is to differentiate your business from all the others. That's what you're going to do, right? You have something better to offer, or why would you be starting? Once you've figured out where you want to set up shop, the next highly important piece of the puzzle is to determine how you're going to get customers. This is called client acquisition and marketing, right? How will you acquire customers? Okay. The worst problem is many startups believe that they can rely solely on work from motor clubs or auction houses, but they quickly learn that these companies pay much less than cash-paying customers. This is where we help our clients with online marketing, including SEO and Google Ads. There's much more to unpack, but I hope that helps. Thanks. So that was the letter that I wrote him back. I wanted to give him a bit of an understanding, and I also wanted to just use that information to give you a little bit of an understanding of what you're going to be required if you're starting a business. Now, if you're in the towing business, most likely you're way past those first 4 steps, right? It's usually the last one, the customer acquisition problem that consumes you, right? To have a viable and profitable business well into the future, you need a constant flow of new customers, right? Hopefully you understand that. These are the main customer acquisition drivers in your business. Search engine optimization, Google Ads performance, community outreach, point of sale, dispatching, fulfillment, tow truck operators. At least they should be. These should be the areas that you should concentrate on. Attention to each of these is important to your overall marketing strategy, but we're just going to discuss a couple of them today. So let's assume you're running a Google ad campaign, and I don't suggest you run smart campaigns. I've said this in other videos, but a regular search campaign, mobile-only click-to-call campaign, and it's bringing in 45 calls per week. But for some reason, the calls aren't converting into cash-paying customers. Now, the problem might be that the ad campaign isn't set up properly. It might be a smart campaign, but it also might be that your point-of-sale channel isn't as effective as it could be. Now, point of sale, dispatchers, call takers. The reasons for this can vary, but one might be that your dispatchers are geared up to only receive motor club calls, right? They're not used to getting cash calls. Maybe they're used to getting call details provided to them in a highly ordered fashion, maybe even by text or over the computer somehow. But they have little patience with cash calls due to the fact that many times motorists don't know where they are, what they need, what's wrong with their car, or even what kind of car they're driving. Your ad campaign might be humming along great. It might be getting a ton of good quality leads. But if your dispatchers are rushing the callers trying to get just the facts and don't practice a kinder, gentler approach, they're not going to close as many of those calls. It's just a no-brainer. Fulfillment is another area that might need work. It might not be the call taker's problem. It might be your tow truck operators. Tow truck operators play a very important role in customer acquisition and retention. Now, they didn't acquire the customer, but they can help with the retention, right? As I've preached before, rather than thinking transactionally, where every tow or service call is a one-off deal, I suggest that you think differently. Look at every interaction with a customer as an opportunity to generate referrals, repeat customers, and reviews, online reviews, 5-star reviews. But if your tow truck operators are just going through the motions when on a call and they're not connecting with their customers, it's not a good thing. When there's ample opportunity to connect with people, even with motor clubs, you should have them take advantage of that and do it at that time. When people have a car problem, they're having a bad day, and some are highly emotional. You guys know this. They're having a bad day, and what they need is a little bit of reassurance. Well, it's at these times that they're also highly impressionable, right? Which means they may interpret indifference or going through the motions as rudeness, right? Conversely, expressions of kindness and helpfulness are, for the most part, appreciated. And remember, they're going to remember that you were helpful in their time of need. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, okay? Big elephant in the room. Some may argue that people are busy and they won't remember when you helped them when they were down. They'll just forget that you even existed. Well, having dealt with thousands of business owners, vendors, customers, and employees, I disagree. Personally, I would much rather rely on a known quantity than an unknown quantity, and your customers will as well. And I think you would too. Trustworthy people know their stuff and are not easily forgotten. Besides, even if the person you help doesn't remember you, what's the harm in training your people to treat them right? That's how both businesses and people grow. And even if only 1 in 10 people call you back or refer you to a friend, over the course of a few years, your repeat customer numbers will compound substantially. So rather than looking at each call as a single one-off transaction, look at it as an opportunity to create repeat customers, referrals, and 5-star reviews. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And please share this video. I really do appreciate you watching the videos, and I'm going to have more to come in the future. Thank you.